This episode contains spoilers for Until Dawn. As such, it contains images of violence and gore consistent with teen slasher films and a discussion of ableism. Hello and welcome back to the Push to Smart Water Cooler. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Taking a break from our episodic games, we're going to talk about another game that kind of falls into that same genre without coming out week to week. That's Until Dawn. It's the latest game, I think actually the first game from Supermassive Games. It is divided into chapters, and within those chapters, your choice is determined whether your characters live or die in a teen slasher film.
So, Until Dawn originally came out in August, and I have been, to put it nicely, bugging you to play it since then. And you did.
I did.
So, I've played Heavy Rain and Beyond, and I'm really into the kind of like cinematic gameplay experience kind of thing where it's basically just a bunch of quick time events. I know that you haven't played those, am I correct?
You are correct. I played the Heavy Rain demo, and that's it. And I was just like, that's enough. We're good.
Yeah. So, what did you expect coming into this game?
I don't really know. It's a game that I think I mentioned back in our Gamescom, maybe it was, episode. This has been on my radar for a while because I had some classmates that worked on it when it was in the early stages. I thought it was canceled after it was kind of disappeared. It was originally announced as like a PlayStation 3 move game. Then until it resurfaced at Gamescom. And I really didn't know what to expect. I was kind of excited about the prospect of a good high school slasher horror game. For a medium that has really latched on to horror, we haven't seen a lot of that side of it. But I didn't really know how it would function necessarily, or what my how I would interact with it. And I was kind of surprised in the way it did. And I'm glad you brought up kind of Heavy Rain and Beyond first, because one of the things that really struck me when I first started this game was the title sequence forefronts the screenwriters.
Yeah.
I have never known a game to do that. Like, it lists all the actors, which is also unique for a game, and then screenplay by, which that's a very bold statement of this is the kind of game it is. It's going to be totally narrative driven.
When Heavy Rain came out, I loved it because I'd never really played anything like it. And then when I went back and replayed it just earlier this year, I was like, oh, this is aged. And I have aged. It just, sometimes you can't go back home.
Ridiculous in what way? Like, I find when I go back and play like Uncharted, for instance, it just looks old. Like, is that it? Or is it the way it plays? Or the writing?
The writing,
okay.
Definitely. There's a lot of like over the top kind of weirdness, and I didn't really notice how racist it was.
Oh god.
And yeah, so it's just all these kind of things. But one thing that I really liked about Until Dawn is that, I mean, it does take itself seriously. It's not like when Heavy Rain came out, it was like, this is changing video games.
This is art. And
exactly.
You will see it as art.
Yeah, it takes itself seriously for kind of like a teen slasher narrative.
Yeah. The way it takes itself seriously is very interesting to me. Basically, I was kind of expecting a Scream-like scenario where it's like, and it kind of gets into Scream a little bit, but this whole idea of like knowing the tropes of the horror film will kind of help you survive.
Yeah.
And so when I was playing, like, I was trying to keep the group together. If there was ever a fight, it was like, no, all of you shut up and get along. When it was a choice between risk the jump or take the safe path, I was always like, safe path. But that does not pay off. Like, if you take the safe path at a certain point, a certain character will die.
Yeah.
And that kind of, like, it was actually the first character death, too. And that kind of threw me for a loop. It was like, okay, this game is not, these rules are different than I was expecting.
Did you not save Jessica?
I did not save Jessica. She got her face chewed off.
When I first started, I was like, hey guys, let's not fight. And also, let's never split up.
Yeah.
And then, as I was playing, I kind of started forgetting these rules, which is really weird. There's a scene with Mike when he is going through, like, the asylum, abandoned, spooky asylum. And he comes across that very obvious trap. The bear trap underneath the
hand waving.
Yeah. And as soon as I got there, I was like, that is a trap. I am not touching that. And so I went through and I looked at everything else in the room. And right as I was out at the door to leave, I was like, but maybe something's important there? And like this morbid curiosity took over. And like, you know, if I was watching a horror movie, I'd be like, oh, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. But I was playing it and I was like, but what if I missed something?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting the way, by putting myself in the character, it totally changed how I viewed the scenario. Mm-hmm. And especially, and you know, part of that is because it's a video game with collectibles. But yeah, so I didn't want to miss anything. But at the same time, I was like, what if it's just, you know, creepy hand?
Yeah.
No. I have to chop my fingers off now.
I didn't. I refused to chop my fingers off, so it took 3 tries to get out of the bear trap, but he got out.
I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then it had the kind of POV of the monster or the dogs or something. And I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Little things like that, I thought, like, when I come away from the game, I find so interesting.
Mm-hmm. You find yourself kind of playing by the rules instead of gaming the system using the rules like I expected.
Yeah,
to be doing.
And also, like, later in the game, when Ashley, like, hears a noise, and you can separate from the group, this is, like, the final chapter.
Yeah.
I was like, because you haven't seen Jessica in such a long time, at that point, I was like, maybe this is where I can save her. So, of course, I leave the group, and...
Oh, did she die?
Yeah, her neck gets, like... twisted off.
In my game, that was one of the things, like, there's some things that don't quite work, because that was one of them, because in my game, we've already established this point, Jess has had her face chewed off. And so, when we're walking through the tunnels, and Ashley goes, Jessica? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
I guess it's a bit different when you go that way.
Yeah.
In games like Heavy Rain, or even Telltale games, once you make a decision, there's always that kind of, what path am I on now? Was there a different path?
Yeah.
In this game, parts of that frustrated me. For example, Sam can only die at the end at the lodge.
Yeah, Sam is strange.
Yes.
She doesn't really do anything. And then all of a sudden she's a main character at the very end. It's like you're in the bath for like 3 hours off screen. Where did
While
you come
Jessica
from?
was dying.
Yeah.
Totally, because like it was all Hayden Panettiere in
Yeah.
Until Dawn. And so I expected a bit more. She's a lot more of kind of a blank canvas.
But she has all the dressings of a final girl. She has the very kind of gender neutral name. She's kind of sporty, but she is a final girl and somewhat. At the end, she kind of starts really investigating and tries to fight off the monsters, but there's no, as we kind of talked about in our final girl episode, no really transfer all the phallus and things like that. But like for the final girl, she's really absent through most of it.
Yeah.
The big celebrity thing, and then like the fact that she has all those dressings is just strange. It didn't quite fit the rest of it.
The first time that I actually was kind of invested in her character was when the credits were rolling and she was like talking into the camera.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, like that was actually some pretty good acting there. I kind of wish we would have seen more of that Sam throughout the game.
Especially since in my game I accidentally killed everybody at the last minute but Sam. So she was really emoting for the camera.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
This is my moment.
So maybe we should stop before we go any further and talk about who survived our games. Just kind of lay all that out first.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of get into differences from there.
Okay. When I first played the game, Ashley died from investigating the possible Jessica that ended up being a Wendigo. And then Jessica died because I didn't hide with Matt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so those were the two who died my first playthrough.
Okay. Have you completed a second then?
I've played it like 3 or 4 times now. Once I beat it, I was very invested to see the differences, to see if it was like Heavy Rain or not.
For me, well, everybody died but Sam and Chris because I made a very bad decision. Literally the last decision of the game. I blew everybody up. But before that, I'd only killed off Jess, who got her face chewed off at the very beginning, and Matt, who died a very horrible death that did not seem to fit the crime.
Which part did he die at?
After the radio tower collapsed, he tried to help Em. She fell, and then he had to jump off as the thing was collapsing. And then he was dragged off by a Wendigo and, like, just thrown on a hook. Yeah.
So you didn't give him the flare gun then?
I guess not. It was supposed to be like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
That seems very disproportionate to what you've done.
That's the thing, is I feel bad because I feel like Matt and Emily got the least amount.
Which they were the bonus mission that you got when you pre-ordered.
Exactly. And when I watched that bonus like scene on YouTube, I kind of understand why it was cut, because for pacing at least, I felt like it kind of would have dragged the game down.
Oh, okay.
But it actually gave a bit more insight to the characters and kind of showed how their relationship was more than just bickering.
Good. I mean, because I thought it really needed something like that, because I too had that thought, like when I was playing the game, there was a while where it was like, wow, we haven't seen Matt and Emily for a while. I've like almost killed off several characters. They're just wandering around. Where are they?
Looking for her bag.
And then once I saw afterwards, I read about the pre-order mission. It was like, oh, well, that would probably be it. And I'm glad that, because part of my problem going into was like Em and Jess are kind of like at each other's throats very early, and it seemed very one note. I was a little bit worried that it wouldn't evolve beyond that. And then when I finally was reunited with Emily and Matt, it was like they were doing the same thing. Yeah. And it was like, oh, don't make all these girls like that. And then just have Sam, the tomboy savior,
Who doesn't deserve to die because
she's taking a bath, I guess. But, and I don't know if it quite rose above that. But it would have been nice to have, I guess, an extra scene kind of humanizing them a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit kind of flirtatious. And
Oh, good. Because there is that sense of kind of like, why are these two together?
Exactly.
She's so mean to him.
I know. And some of the choices you can make, it's just like, oh, you guys are terrible for each other. When the radio tower is collapsing, that is a time when Matt can bring up kissing Mike or whatever. And at that point, I totally agree with Emily's response where she's like, you're bringing this up now? It was just some weird moments. And I felt like Emily kind of ended up being the badass of the game.
Emily is always right.
Yeah.
Rule number 1.
And she's doing like weird acrobatics to save her life. And I felt like she just deserved better writing. Same with Matt. Actually, I feel like Matt deserved more screen time. Emily deserved better writing.
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple... That was one of the things where it's like, I bet in a different version of this game, they had more in store for them. Like, those characters seemed to be built for something else.
Thinking about the characters, I feel like they were trying very hard to make certain characters likable. Like Chris and Ashley and Sam and Mike. While the others kind of fell to the wayside a bit and kind of ended up just being stereotypes and tropes.
Because I also, now that I think about it too, like Ashley and Chris, during their, like, there's 2 segments where you have to choose between them. And Ashley's actually in both of them, and I don't think they can die in either of them. Right. Even though you're led to believe that you're killing one of them in a Saw-like trap.
So what did you think of the change between the quote-unquote psycho and the Wendigos? How it starts off being like, oh, there's a psycho killer running around. And then it's like, actually... the Wendigos are evil.
I mean, I didn't figure out, the Wendigo, of course, the mythical creature of the Pacific Northwest. But, like, I figured out that there was several things going on at the very beginning, because when Beth and Hannah are running from the guy with the flamethrower, it was very obvious that he was reaching down to help them. So it's like, okay, he's not the killer. He's out there fighting something. And then when, like, Jessica's grabbed out the window, it was very clear, okay, that was not a person.
Yeah, that was not a human.
So I kind of knew it was going to be something like that. I kind of also figured out that Josh was probably involved.
Like, as soon as Sam is watching that welcome video on the train or whatever, I was like, oh, it's him.
Yep, exactly. And that was the part where I was kind of alluding to earlier. It gets a little bit screamy, this whole idea that, like, if you know enough horror movies, you can actually become the killer, So that was kind of a fun send-up. But then I like that they just kind of dropped it after that. But I guess I'm going to turn this around on you then. Yeah. Like, what did you think about the sequences where we play in the first person and we later find out that is Josh?
When I first started playing it, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
How it was asking you, who's your favorite character? Who's your least favorite character? What are you afraid of? But I feel like that ultimately didn't pay off that much. Because I don't think that saying that one character is your favorite or one character is your least favorite puts them in any danger or saves them from anything. And then when it's shown that it's just kind of all in Josh's head, I don't know. I didn't really like it. I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
I felt like it was building to something more, or that it would continue. I don't know.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me at the start of the Dr. Kaufman segments in Silent Hill Shattered Memories. In fact, I was calling him Dr. Kaufman in in notes and stuff, like, okay, I'm talking to Dr. Kaufman again. And I really like that. And the whole idea of like choosing your favorite character, a lot of those things ended up being cosmetic, but it was kind of fun. Like, he'd ask what you're most afraid of, spiders or cockroaches, and a spider would appear on like a screen later in the game or something.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked is he called me out on the way I was playing the game.
Oh, yeah. I did like that.
He asks, because as we talked about, we were trying to game the system, be like, okay, we're in a horror movie, we're going to keep the group together. And then there's a point where he asks, are you afraid of large crowds? And I, playing as his first person unknown character, said yes. And he goes, well, you're not playing it that way.
And you're like, oh, you got me there.
Yeah. I'm normally not in the horror movies. Oh. You're right. It did feel like it was building to something that it ultimately didn't really pay off.
And I think it's part of the reason I didn't like the Dr. Hill segments is because I would have liked if it was just that instead of just that. And then in the final chapter, he's like hallucinating his sisters and there's like pig heads. And I don't know, that just felt very, I can't put my finger on it, but it just didn't rub me the right way.
Well, if I can say so, Mike is my favorite because I got to pet 2 animals on his campaign, even though they both died.
Oh, yeah. I saved him the first time because you have to lock that door behind you.
Oh, good. So you can save them.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I didn't barricade the door, and then the game makes a really big show of, like, you made a terrible choice. Here's the dead dog. And it's like, I know I made a terrible choice, Gabe. Stop ripping it in. But then, like, I blew up the building afterwards. I was like, well, maybe the dog dies here no matter what.
You actually get a trophy if you save the dog.
Oh, my God. I got to go back and save the dog. Okay. Okay.
I remember saving the dog and then blowing up the asylum, and I was like, I hope he got out of there.
There were so many scenes where, like, Mike would slam the door shut, and I'd be like, where's the dog? And the dog would come up behind. I was like, phew.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was the exact same way. Like, he's always, like, just behind the camera.
Yeah.
One thing that I really liked and I really appreciated, because, like I said, how in, like, Telltale games or Heavy Rain, if you miss something or if you make a decision, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a different scene.
Yeah.
So, one of my later playthroughs, I was like, there's this chase that happens in the asylum that eventually leads to the explosion as Mike. And I was like, I'm just going to put my controller down. I'm not going to fire anything. I'm not going to do anything. And I'm going to see if he just has, like, plot armor this entire time. And he does for a little bit. But eventually, they, like, try attacking him, and it kind of fades out. And then you get a bonus scene of Sam, where you go into the asylum and rescue Mike.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Which
awesome.
I thought was really cool. Yeah, because if you're Mike and you destroy the asylum and you run away, they kind of meet up in the mine, and Sam beheads the guy that's after him. But if you're like me and you put the controller down, then Sam has to go into the asylum, and then basically from there it's about the same, where you have to blow up all the oil tanks that are conveniently placed, and then they escape together. But I just thought it was really cool how my decisions led to the same outcome, but I still got different scenes.
Sam gets to do more too, kind of sort of justifying her as a final girl. I do wonder then, so we definitely have to blow up the asylum, right? Regardless.
Yeah.
So what happened? Because every time you kill one of those things, like a spirit thing kind of flies into the camera. Yeah. And you read in the book, the guide to them, that like you have to avoid killing them because that releases the spirit into the air. Does that do anything? Like, because also you have another option to blow up some before that in a hallway, and I did it, and I saw that thing fly through, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna turn into one of those things. So I guess I'm wondering, like, did you notice any difference with that between your playthroughs then? Or is that just a fly at the screen, 3D, what?
Just like The Mummy.
That cinematic classic.
I think that's just supposed to be, like, the spirits out there, so now if there's a cannibal, like Josh, then he'll become a
Okay,
Wendigo.
so it's always just gonna hook in for that, okay.
When you played, did you have Sam discover that Josh was the psycho?
I don't know, because I had her explore a little bit, and then, of course, she and Mike walk in on him.
So there's that scene where she's escaping him. Mm-hmm. Did you get caught by him?
I did eventually.
If you don't get caught, then she actually stumbles upon his, like, base of operations.
Ooh,
and
okay.
so you get, like, his psych records and blueprints for, like, all the traps and stuff. And he has this little, like, shrine to his sisters.
Interesting.
When she goes in with Mike, and there's that whole scene, she's like, Josh, this has your fingerprints all over it.
Oh, that's interesting. That would make her a lot more final girly, too.
Yeah.
With that investigative gaze.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I liked how, like, there wasn't that much wiggle room, but there was just enough that you wouldn't really be disappointed if you replayed it again and tried to make different choices. And I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Especially since it's like a $60 game.
Yeah. And like 6 hours for your first playthrough.
Yeah.
So.
That's one of the things we were kind of discussing, whether or not to do it as a, like, you should play or just a regular water cooler. The price is a little weird.
It's definitely a factor. Yeah.
Because when I eventually got it after you kept insisting I play it, I got it with my Amazon points. So for a nearly free game, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would have paid $60 for it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and also, unfortunately, this game, like, falls into a lot of tropes.
Yeah.
So you have, like, the Native American burial ground and totems and as, like, these weird spiritual guides. And then you have Josh and his, like...
He's off his meds.
Yeah, that's what you find out, actually.
Yeah.
As Sam is like, he's literally off his meds.
I think they say something to that effect when he's tied up. He says it, like Chris says it or something, and then he says revenge is the best medicine.
That was another thing I didn't like. Is once they figure out that Josh did it, Josh is suddenly, like, you know, acting all...
Like he's not lucid.
Yeah. And it was just like, okay, where did that come from?
Yeah, that's not how it works typically.
I've been found out. I really need to lay it on thick now.
Yeah. The Native American thing, like, I wasn't quite sure where it was going with that. And the first thing I did, because I am woefully ignorant of these things, is I, like, ran on Wikipedia, like, Wendigo, are these real things? And there is a tradition of, like, the Wendigo as folklore and that sort of thing. But I the totem thing, it's a little weird.
Yeah, especially when you figure out that it was the flamethrower guy just making totems, because that's...
Oh, I missed that.
It's one of his, like, diary entries or whatever. He's like, I've been
I didn't
making
get
these
that.
things because that's what Native Americans used to do. And so it's like...
Oh.
Yeah. So I loved my time with Until Dawn. I highly recommend it, but it is a really short game. And it does have some replayability to it, but I'd probably wait until a price drop, personally.
Yeah, I paid $20 for it, and I am very happy with that $20. I'm really hoping it'll get some kind of Halloween, October kind of sale bump from Sony at least. But yeah, it's a really interesting experiment, and I think it holds up well for the most part by itself. But I think it's also one of those things, almost like Never Alone in a weird way, that's indicative of much cooler things to come. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to revisit it and try to save everybody, or at least the characters I killed off in the final decision I made and the dog. Yeah. But I definitely think it's an interesting game to experience if you can.
So that does it for our Until Dawn water cooler discussion. So now we want to know...
Who did you save? Who did you kill? Did you save the dog? Did you pet the dog?
So let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all of our latest episodes and water cooler discussions.
He started having night terrors, screaming in his sleep. I am the Wendigo.